Cade Cunningham was the top pick in the 2021 NBA draft, and after buffing up, he has Pistons fans excited for a return to the glory days. It's hard to single out any one superpower Cade has flashed as a rookie. There's his passing vision, his size and strength as a 6'6" point guard, and then his tempo, staying under control and using change of pace as a primary part of his attack. But I'm most impressed with the more subtle, fluid components of his athleticism. Here, he attacks a big by faking a gather, and that huge pause gets him by, and then a little flick off the high glass over the help. Cade's dexterity and touch really show up on finishes around the basket. A ball fake freezes Ayton, and then this sweeping left-hander off the window. He'll throw dribbling combinations at you, trying a cross here into a second cross, and that creates just enough space for another southpaw finish, and you can already see his wide variety of finishing angles around the bucket. Here's a slippery little behind the back dribble to protect the ball, and then check out the adaptation here, windmilling it around defenders to kiss it home perfectly. This kind of athleticism shows up in his footwork too, where he can flow from really choppy staccato steps right into a pull-up. Here's another example, wheeling into a huge up fake, looking to step through, only to snap that lead foot back into a cozy little fadeaway. This one's pretty slick, with a screener sliding out to the left, so Cade briefly fakes left, comes back to the right, and pivots into a little shake and half hook off the glass. At just 20 years old, his balance, handle, and hand-eye coordination let him play at his own tempo, never really being sped up, moving at his own pace, and changing speeds to work around defenders. Cunningham's not an explosive, quick-twitch athlete. He can't turn the corner on Dean Wade here, and relative to smaller guards, he doesn't have great burst off the bounce. That's his bigger high school teammate Scotty Barnes stonewalling him on the outside. So instead, Cade relies on his craft, strength, and size, dropping the shoulder into James Harden and muscling through him. And here's that handoff we saw earlier, only Jeff Green stays with Cade, so he discards him a bit with that left arm to create space and set up a nifty reverse. Young players initiating contact like this is a great sign, and Cade can't blow by this guard, so he just plows through him for a soft little push shot. He'll also use the fundamentals, jab steps and ball fakes to soften a defender, and there's no blow by, but he absorbs a ton of contact and finishes with touch. Cade's older brother Cannon was a springy big man at SMU, and he's coached Cade for years, so banging around with NBA players and turning his back to them is natural for him at this point. With a much smaller guard on him, he can just back his way down, and he even has a little lefty hook in the post. He'll even turn his back to the basket when he can't get by bigger defenders, flashing that footwork into a little post fadeaway. Cade already has the makings of a diverse scoring package, hovering into a little step back here, and on this one he quickly pulls up with a little floating push shot from the foul line. But these are still only flashes of potential, since Cade is shooting just 37% from the mid-range, and it's the same story from 3, where he's clocking it at only 32%. His shooting form is fairly compact, with the ball staying out in front of his body, and this means he needs a little extra space to comfortably fire these, which brings us back to his footwork and balance. He can easily blend a cross into a step back, and that's a viable pathway to solid three-point attempts off the bounce moving forward, which could be huge if he makes 36 or 37% at volume. And I think there's good reason to believe he'll improve as a jump shooter, given his 84% free throw shooting in the last 2 seasons and that touch he has around the rim. Of course, the other key to Cade's game is his passing. He says that he's modeled himself after Luka Doncic, another big playmaker who doesn't rely on explosive athleticism, instead succeeding with guile and size. Here's another pick and roll at Cade's tempo, going with a hesitation and then using his height to almost finger roll it over his defender, dropping it to the outside hand where only his teammate can catch it. This one will look familiar to Luka fans, a screen and roll where he's reading this low defender, and since he sinks in, it's a pass over the top with that size creating an advantage. Skip passes like this are probably Cade's best playmaking weapon right now, and here he uses a ton of that wiggly stop and start game to draw extra defenders and whip it to an open shooter for a great look. And I particularly like his ability to blend the dribble into one-handed completions on the far side of the floor. Cade's strength and malleable athleticism help his playmaking too, moving through contact and staying balanced while reading this defender, which creates a nice angle for a right-handed dime. I also love how quickly he segues from the dribble drive here into a kick-out pass, even though Corey Joseph kind of squanders the opportunity. The Pistons haven't exactly surrounded Cade with offensive talent, and his lack of a rim runner for most of the year has stood out. This is the opening play of their game in Denver, where he misses this lob to Isaiah Stewart, although the wing defender slid down, so Plan B still led to a decent look. And I can't help think these are more about his roll threats than his passing. Here's a similar opening where Cade wisely blends his floater into a lob, but Stewart struggles to finish it. Compare that to the recent addition of the more vertically inclined Marvin Bagley III, and Cade confidently finger rolls this lob right to the front of the rim. Based on his pass, I'd say Cunningham actually prefers lobs to his big men at the rim. And here's a situation where he gets downhill, and to punish the help, just flicks a lob to the dunker spot, and that is why they call it the dunker spot. Compare this to his non-lob laydown attempts, where he can struggle to fit the right wraparound pass into traffic, and his decisions and deliveries aren't always the right ideas as he approaches the goal. I do think he's slightly more on the reactive side as a passer. He's a touch late on this one, because he doesn't anticipate it on this dribble, despite the cut already starting and James Harden ball watching, and that extra dribble weakens the delivery and the layup disappears. Here's a different kind of reaction, where he's waiting for the swing pass, so he commits to the catch and shoot instead of anticipating an extra pass at the rim for a layup. Still, for a 20-year-old, Cade has good vision and the makings of a strong passer, and there's also low-hanging fruit to pick off, like his habit of occasionally leaving his feet prematurely, causing unforced turnovers. Cunningham is the 25th rookie in NBA history to average 15 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists per game. And 71% of these players have gone on to become All-Stars, but at the same time, most of those All-Stars had much better shooting percentages. On the other side of the ball, there's a lot to like too. Cade can swivel his hips quickly in man situations, and he's strong enough to hold his ground, and that's really solid until the very end. Yoga is a regular part of his practice, and that's helped loosen his hips on defense like this, and then he's accurate with his hands on swipe downs. His feet are pretty nimble in close quarters, sliding with a small here, and then some great hand-eye coordination on this dig, and notice he lunges exactly as Mitchell puts the ball back down to time this perfectly. This level of on-ball defense is perfect for today's wing-heavy, spaced-out game, where he's strong enough to hold off big forwards and quick enough to slide with slashers, and then he'll attack the ball like Michael Jordan at the end of it. Cade does gamble a bit himself. He's sitting one pass away here, but lacks the burst to make that play, which leads to a complete defensive breakdown. And this shows up guarding the ball as well, where he swipes at Jordan Poole, who's simply too quick to try that against. Compare that to later in the game, where Cade defends Poole in space without reaching, and he ends up stonewalling him into an offensive foul. Even against quicker players, he can use length when he falls behind. His teammate blocks him on this handoff, and then Cade stays with the ball and glides right into a block from behind. And because of his height and length, he provides some rim protection from the guard spot, and even though he's not a high flyer, Cade loads off of 2 feet really well and just smothers Chris Duarte at the rim here. And again, that high-speed hand-eye coordination is a weapon for him on defense. Such precision and reflexes also help avoid fouls on these vertical contests, arriving with the pass and tracking the shot perfectly in the air without making contact. Cade's already big and strong enough to hang with some traditional power forwards and centers. He's sealed a bit here, but then stalemates Kevin Love under the hoop. And I really love this possession where he shuts off any penetration ideas and then on the pick and roll recognizes a mismatch, slides down to scram out his smaller teammate, but still keeps an eye on the ball and then finishes the whole thing by standing up Jared Allen, and unfortunately nobody boxed out. When losing teams have defensive struggles like this, effort can wane, and I don't know if him falling asleep is just a rookie losing focus or the result of a poor situation. But there's also plenty of effort on that end for a 20-year-old offensive centerpiece, like sprinting to close out and reading an extra pass, and that's just athletic brilliance. Here, he's sitting in help position, stunts toward the dribbler, and then recovers right into that 2-footed jump at the rim. One clear area of improvement moving forward is his screen navigation, where his footwork and anticipation can leave him behind the play too often. There's a ton of space between him and the ball here as the screen arrives, and then some small but unsuccessful steps to chase his man, and by then it's too late. Impact metrics currently view his defense as ahead of his offense, although none of them think he's more than an average NBA player right now, at best. And this is largely because of those efficiency struggles. We talked about his lagging shooting, but Cunningham's lack of burst and vertical pop have made rim finishing a real struggle. He's at just 55% from the hoop, and a ton of his 2-point attempts have been blocked around the basket. While I expect this to improve as Cade fills out, and as the spacing around him improves, such a low starting point does concern me. Some of Cade's percentages might also be related to shot selection. He can be a bit trigger happy at times, and while cutting out long twos and early clock jumpers can improve shooting numbers, I also think he's slightly miscast in this heliocentric role, where he's the central decision-making hub and his team's primary scoring threat. He seems to be a quick learner, so maybe that style will pan out, but I see a player who could thrive as a defender and secondary creator, attacking off ball while blending in his current pick and roll skills as his shooting naturally improves. And to me, that two-way impact gives him a really high floor as a player over the next decade, and a clear pathway for Cade Cunningham to become a future NBA All-Star. To support this channel, check out patreon.com/thinkingbasketball. We have additional video content, articles, a daily updating stats board, and more. Thanks so much for watching this one all the way to the end, and as always, I hope you are having a great day.